Okay, welcome to part 4 of mapping with NetRadiant for Alien Arena 2009. Now what we covered in the last video was basically these toolbar buttons. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through the menus up at the top. It is a little bit boring and you probably know what some of them do, but some of them you won't actually have any idea what they do, so it's best to wade through it. Okay, yeah, let's have a look through. Okay, so we've got new map, creates a new map. Open will open your folder change dialog to bring up a map. Okay, and then we've got save as, import, and other functions like that. Now this one here, which is what I want to talk about really quickly, is point file. Now let me do a little snap of the fingers, and there we go. Right, okay. Now, there's one big thing about maps is that they always need to be completely sealed up. It's basically like, imagine you were building this room in space. If you had a hole, all the air would leak out. So I'm going to show you that very quickly. Now what the point file will do is if I just make it so that this ceiling is back a little bit, so we've got a hole there, you know, a slight hole. You may not actually notice this when you're doing your mapping, but what the point file will do is if you have a light entity or other items like that within the map, the point file will show you a direction of where the map is leaked. It will show a red line coming from usually a light entity, and it will show the red line going across the map and up out of the hole, and by following the red line from the entity you can then see where the hole is and do what you need to do to clear it up. And obviously it's a case of closing it back up, closing the hole up like so. Okay, so that's what the point file will do. I'll build a map a little bit later and make it leak and show you how you can get around these problems. Now we've got our edit window. We've got undo, redo, paste to camera, etc. Now most of these are pretty self-explanatory, especially paste to camera and copy paste. Paste to camera will just allow you to paste an item into the map directly in front of the camera so you know where it is. If you're copying items from one map to another, which technically you shouldn't do, but if you are, what will happen is you'll paste it and it will paste at the coordinates of where you copied it from in the other map. So if you look at this window over here, if we had something copied from one map over here, see where I'm drawing this box at -512 to 0, if we pasted that in from another map, it will paste there, and if you've got a lot going on you may not notice where it pastes in, and then you've got multiple things pasted in place that are completely out of the world. So you can use paste to camera to paste it straight in front of the camera view so you can see it, which is the best way to go about it. Okay, in the view menu we've got console view, texture browser, and these letters here, OTNSL, pressing these keys on the keyboard will bring up the relevant windows. So console view, we press O and we can see the console. Texture browser, which you'll use a lot, gives you a full list of all the folders where all your textures are contained, so that brings that up. Surface Inspector you bring up by pressing the S key, which is very useful. We'll do a whole video on the Surface Inspector very soon. Now one quick bug which I didn't mention in the other video, which I've just discovered now because it does happen to me. I've right clicked in the camera view and I want to move forward, so I press the forward key, but notice the camera view becomes deselected. So the reason is, look at your caps lock. If your caps lock light is on, turn it back off, press the caps lock key and you'll get full control over the camera window. I went absolutely crazy with that. I restarted the computer and everything when I first started mapping. Couldn't figure out what the problem was. Okay, we'll look at the modify menu. Now we can, again, modify is the same controls used on this toolbar across the top. Nudge to nudge things left, right, up and down, rotate, flip, arbitrary rotation and scaling, and we've also got the components, which are edges, vertices and faces, which we've all basically got on this toolbar up at the top. It's just there in the menu as well, and they've got quicker access on the toolbar. The build menu we won't really use because we're not building anything through Radiant, or in this tutorial anyway, so we can skip over that. We're doing it all command line. Now your grid, see, 1 to 9, and we can turn the grid off by pressing 0. This will change the grid lines or the grid units on your display itself, and we'll set it right down. It's always best if you're doing really intricate work to put it around 0.125, because as you zoom in you get really fine editing. You see, you can go right down to the unit, so that's 1 unit wide, which is very small, but it's you know, you can flip between them. Now you've got 1 to 9 to go from grid size 1 to 256, but if you want to go lower than that you need to select in the grid menu and go down to 0.125, 25 or 5 to arrange your grid view in that way. On the MISC window we've got colours, and that is rarely used, so I'm not going to talk about that at all. Find brush is a good one. You can enter in an entity number and hit find, and it will find that one. Like, I knew the light was going to be entity 1, because lights are things like lights, items, player starts, they are entities within the map, whereas these brushes are classed as an entity because they all use world spawn, but they're not an entity. So just put that basic bit in your brain right now: brushes and entities. So with that we can find brushes, and we can get map info to tell us how many brushes there are and total entities. Now this is good because there is a limit on the amount of brushes you can have in a map, and I'll post some information about that in the description over on the right hand side. Okay, now we've got the entity window: regroup, ungroup, connect and select color. Select color is the one you're probably going to use most. It's for setting colors of light, so we can press the K key and we get a color window where we can select which color we want the light to emit, and you can see it changes in the camera view or orthographic view to show you what that light will actually emit. As if by magic it's gone. Right, now in the brush section we've got prism, cone, sphere and rock. Now we can create different brushes using this, so I can choose prism and say I want it to have 20 sides. Now obviously I didn't have anything selected there, bad Davy. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll draw a brush, and we'll find that brush in our world, which is here, and we'll bring down the brush like so. Okay, now we can choose brush and prism, and we want it to have 20 arbitrary sides, and we hit OK, and you can see it's changed it into a cylinder there. And again, we've got other ones like cone, so we can cone it. That didn't do anything, I typed in a stupid number, but you can make things into cones and other cool things like that. Now one thing I've just realised I didn't mention very quickly: you'll be wondering how I'm moving around these windows. I was going to cover it a little bit later, but I think it's always best to learn by doing. So if you're trying to do what I'm doing right now, and you know, you see, well, how's he moving them windows about? Well, it's simple. To zoom in a window, you use your scroll wheel to zoom in, and to zoom out you pull it backwards. Now to move the window about so you can pan left and right, you don't click and drag with the left mouse button because that draws a brush. So to pan the window around we use the right mouse button and we click and drag around to move these windows about. And to get the context menu up, which we were talking about before, you right click and it will bring up all your items that you can insert into your map, and you can click off it again. We're going to look now at the curve menu. You can create cylinders and other items in there. We're not going to go through them in great detail. The plugins though, the plugins are pretty good. One good plugin to use is Port View. Now this will load up the portals and allow you to see them in the map. Now we'll talk about portals and things later. All you need to know basically about portals is that the compile tools will split your map up into various portals, and you can actually load the portal files with this to see what they're doing. It's not very useful, but sometimes it does help if you have a problem with portal saw into leaf and certain errors like that. You can actually look through, and if you see, you can look and see a pattern in the portals. If the portals don't look right in one area, then chances are That is where the problem lies. I've used that once before and it came in very, very useful.